We are talking about efforts to legalize recreational marijuana tonight. I have two lovely guests with me, Beverly Moran and Paul Kuhn, both from the organization, and it is a mouthful, but it's NORML is what it's called, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Law. So we're going to jump back to the phone lines because these lines are full, and I'm going to try to get to them in order. So Susan, you have the floor tonight. Hi, Susan.
Good evening.
Hi. Go ahead.
I'll try not to look at the television screen because it's off on
That's
time.
right. It is.
I just had to call in because of some of the comments that your guests have made in terms of responsible usage, prohibition, and we know how that worked out with regard to alcohol. The black market situation, whatever drug you consider, just whether it's marijuana, opioids, heroin, meth, to consider opening the floodgates and expect individuals to be able to be responsible and not drive. Only adults. Consider your condition before you go out into the public arena. That is absolute just madness as far as I'm concerned, because it is a mind-altering drug. One of the other callers mentioned that marijuana is not the same grade of marijuana that it was back in the 60s and 70s. And, go to Amsterdam, go to some of these countries where drugs have been legalized, and go to Needle Point Park and other places where they thought they could expect individuals to be responsible in usage, and it's tragic. No, I don't think the answer is to say, just throw our arms up and say, well, let's just let human nature take its course. So that's my comment.
And we appreciate it. Thank you, Susan, very much. How do you respond to people like Susan? Because I know there are many people who are on that same side saying, no, let's not do this. This is a drug.
So I would say people are complicated, and this is a complicated issue. And if we could wave a wand and make sure that everyone ate the right things and never did anything wrong or whatever, we probably would all do that. But we have a situation where people are going to engage in certain activities. And we have to make a decision as a society what we're going to do about that. And the decision that we've made as a society is that we're going to put 600,000 people plus every year in prison. We're going to harass people. We're going to make people afraid of losing their children. We're going to make people afraid of losing their apartments and losing their jobs. And we're going to have a huge underground illegal drug network. That doesn't seem like the best choice in this situation. And the woman was saying that if you go to these other countries, but in many of these other countries that she named, you actually do have a much lower incarceration rate. You have a much lower rate of HIV transmission through needles and things of this sort, although that has nothing to do with marijuana, just to be clear. So it's not easy, and it's not something that we're just going, wow, let's just do whatever. You had asked, what is it that NORML does?
Yeah.
And I would say the two pillars of what NORML does is education and lobbying. And a lot of our lobbying is also educational. We train lawyers, we train medical professionals, we try and get out the best information that we can to the widest range of people so that we can all participate in this difficult decision.
Do you believe it's wise to have a limit on how much a person can possess or whether they can grow it themselves or not?
I think that allowing people to grow is very important.
Why?
Because, again, NORML is a consumer organization. And so we don't want to see consumers in a situation where they are at the mercy of the tobacco industry or the alcohol industry or the marijuana industry if that happens. And we also think that marijuana is, it's a plant. People have been growing it for years. There are now people in Tennessee in prison now because they grew marijuana in their backyard. 1 or 2 plants. We don't like to believe that, right? We'd like to believe that it's really decriminalized and people aren't suffering, and a lot of people are suffering. So it's that sort of balancing the equities, I think.
What about when it comes to possessing, though? Should there be a limit of what people should be able to have? Is there a responsible limit?
Is there a limit on alcohol?
No.
I can go to the liquor store and load up my car and then come back and load it up again.
Mm-hmm.
So there are limits. There will be limits as legalization takes effect in states. You're not going to pass it with unlimited, but I think over time we will treat it more like alcohol. And I think here in America there is this irony that the number 1 and number 2 causes of preventable death in America and in the world are tobacco and alcohol. 2 killer addictive drugs with just terrible physical side effects. And with alcohol you also have abusive behavior and violent behavior that alcohol causes. You don't have any of that with cannabis. So I think what we'll see is the fact that people are, by and large, self-preservation, pretty strong instinct. You want to continue to live. So if we made a 3rd drug available, and it's available now, it's just available in a black market, which is not a good distribution system. But when we legalize marijuana and are honest about it, speak the truth about it, I think more people will naturally migrate to using cannabis over tobacco and alcohol, and both the individual and society will be safer. And for people who do get in trouble, treat it as a medical problem, not as a criminal problem, unless they do something criminal. And marijuana doesn't make you do anything criminal except possession of marijuana, whereas alcohol, causes, I think 50% of all arrests in America are alcohol related of one kind or another. DUI or spousal abuse, that kind of thing.
Wow. Let's get back to the phone lines. We have a lot of calls, as I mentioned before. Tom is on the line. Hi, Tom.
Hey, how y'all doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing just fine. I'm sort of listening to all this discussion, and I'm going to give you my opinion.
Okay.
All right. Well, I've been smoking marijuana for going on almost 53 years. I started back there in the end of the Vietnam era. And, I've been around a lot of hard drugs, heroin, acid, and stuff like that. And that's not a choice of drug. I don't think you should class marijuana as a class drug as a heroin. It's not. And as far as legalization, Tennessee should have legalized marijuana years ago. I think they wouldn't have no problem with the opiate issue. It's not a gateway drug. Just because I've been around heroin and all those other drugs, it was just there. It's, and I didn't get into that. But like I said, I did smoke my pot. I still smoke my pot. And I'll smoke my pot till I guess I die. So I might as well take taxes out of my pocketbook and put it out here in the country. But Illinois just went legal for recreational. I just talked to a friend of mine there. And taxes are so high on it that the price of it is astronomical. They're making millions of dollars off just taxes alone. And taxes that we need here, for the elderly. And they was talking about the making it illegal to drive and stuff. I've been studying the laws on it since 1981. I know how to legalize it and make it illegal too, and still be recreational and still make it under the, your DUI law and stuff. I don't believe in that because pot don't make you that bad. You take people that gets out here and drinks liquor, beer. They have a wreck, and they find just a little bit of pot on them. The first thing they do, they blame it on the pot, but yet they don't blame it on the alcohol. But like the man said, more people die from alcohol, tobacco, than marijuana.
Tom,
So,
thank you for calling in. I hear your point. I'm gonna go ahead and cut you off because we've got a lot of people coming
for doing this.
in. Thank you. You're welcome. We do have a lot of callers to get to, but he brought up a point about it's just not getting passed in Tennessee. What is the biggest hurdle here, specifically to our state?
I would say it is law enforcement. Law enforcement is strongly opposed, and they're very well respected on Capitol Hill. They should be, but our marijuana laws are on the books today because of law enforcement. When we repealed alcohol prohibition, we didn't repeal the bureaucracy, the law enforcement bureaucracy that enforced it. They were looking for a new prohibition and they needed it fast. And marijuana was the ideal target because it really wasn't used by that many people then. And most smokers in 1937 when the law passed were minorities. Or as they said, what did they call them? The degenerate races. Blacks, Negroes, Hispanics, and Filipinos were in that category. So they were largely racist-based laws. They made some claims that were just, marijuana makes darkies think they are as good as white men. They literally said that, and they said things worse than that. And so it went through Congress in like 90 seconds of debate. It got on the books, and then, like all bureaucracies, it just expands and expands. And police now have asset forfeiture going where they can stop you and take your cash and your car in your home. Police departments are paid extra money for every marijuana arrest they make by a federal program. Most people don't know that, but they do. So if you had a police department and you're paid more for one kind of arrest over all others, you kind of tend to concentrate on that, and you wouldn't want to give that money up. And I think police have also, we put them in the forefront of the war on drugs, and they've seen colleagues injured and killed. They've killed people enforcing our marijuana laws. And to admit now that that's all a mistake, it's all based on a lie, that's hard to do. But the longer they continue to oppose, the worse it gets for respect for law and the worse it gets for them. So I'm hoping they're beginning to come around now, but right now I'd say it's the law enforcement that makes it difficult, and drug testing companies and pharmaceutical companies and alcohol manufacturers too. So we've got a lot against us, but we also have the truth going for us, and we've seen a tremendous surge in support for legalization.
Well, and when you see that the 33 states who have approved medical marijuana and the 11 plus the District of Columbia who are on board with recreational marijuana, do you think the tide will eventually overtake Tennessee?
Yes.
I feel Beverly is a strong doubter here.
Well, I think it's going to happen. Mississippi is probably going to pass by referendum an initiative. We don't have the initiative process in Tennessee, unfortunately. Mississippi does. It's on the ballot, and it's got 60-65% support. So we're going to have medical in Mississippi. We're probably going to have it in Alabama pretty soon. We already got it in Arkansas. So we're basically getting surrounded by states, and Tennesseans in the legislature is going to see, well, this end of the world didn't happen when they passed it.
All right, I got to take a quick break or I'm going to get yelled at here. So we're going to do that when we come back. We'll get straight to your phone call. Stay with us.